So hi everyone, welcome to our community meetup. It's been a while. So I'm the product owner for ThinEdge, and I wanted to walk you through, just in case if you haven't maybe seen ThinEdge, or like you're a new user, or maybe haven't seen what the latest developments are. Just want to give a brief overview on some of the new features that we've brought in the last year. So just in case if you don't know ThinEdge, so this is the idea of ThinEdge is to make it easy to connect your IoT devices to the cloud. But really, those IoT devices could be absolutely anything. So it's more of a Linux-based device. So whether it's connecting like a gateway, whether it's a server, something with Kubernetes or something fancier, but also connecting to other devices that you might have in your local network, connect via ThinEdge to the cloud. So these could be microcontrollers, Windows devices, or some kind of like layered hierarchy that you have. So in this diagram, we show that I've representing like the gateway device where we have like ThinEdge installed and the core components. So we often refer to this as like the main device, where that is then facilitating the connection to the cloud. So because the ThinEdge, we kind of believe in freedom of choice, that you can also connect to different cloud providers. So whether it be Cumulocity, AWS, Azure, all have kind of different advantages and disadvantages. So you can basically choose whatever fits that, like your IoT project. So in ThinEdge, we also offer like local services. So we offer like a local MQTT broker, which we use for our kind of message bus, which means you can easily connect to the MQTT broker to either get messages from it or publish messages to it, and then we'll propagate that to the cloud. But not only do we have the MQTT broker, but we also have like an API server, a file server, an entity store in there. So it really makes it all to facilitate it easier to connect your devices. So in this diagram, I've also showed like connecting other devices that you might be having in your local network. So let's say if we had another Linux device where I also want to connect that to the cloud, I have my gateway device. So I can actually just install the TEDGE agent, which I'll go into what that means shortly, just on this device. So I don't need any of the mappers or anything like that. Just connect it directly to the MQTT broker running on the main device. And then the mappers on the main device will do all of the message translations to the clouds. So it means you can kind of be very flexible with your layouts. And you can also do like your IoT integration piece by piece. So you can slowly connect to more and more devices. And none of these devices that are under here need to know anything about the cloud. So that means you have a great abstraction point that you can also swap and change. So if you decide, coming from Azure and going to Cumulocity, then you can easily switch kind of like the backends, and then you don't need to change anything in the field. So going down onto what is then one device and what do you have included on that. So ThinEdge is written in Rust, but we don't expect our users to write Rust if you don't want to. So all of the features are designed to basically be very extensible. So you can kind of plug and play your little bits that you want. For example, the software management is a good example of this. So if you wanted to interface with snaps or apt packages or apk packages or containers, you just need to write a small little module that knows about that kind of technology that you're using, and then you can integrate that with ThinEdge very easily. So you don't need to know very complicated things. You just need to know your domain. So if you're interfacing with containers, saying, okay, I support Docker, how do I install and remove containers? And then that's it. And then you can integrate into ThinEdge and connect that to the cloud. So all of these components are very pluggable, and then you can use all of our extensive community plugins. So we have about, I think, 8 or 9 different kind of software management plugins. We have different firmware management kind of integrations, and all of this is very kind of pluggable. So you can kind of choose whatever kind of technology that you either have on your IT devices now or whatever you want. So it also makes it very easy to extend to proprietary formats. So I know a lot of devices might have their own kind of package manager system that it makes it very easy to integrate. So it's looking to play nicely with also third-party integrations. So it should make the whole experience very easy to kind of integrate your device. So with all of the feature set, there's a heavy kind of push on device management. So that's basically all the functionality that the TEDGE agent provides. So whether it's doing firmware installation, software, configuration management, log management, or like collecting logs, certificate management, and all of this. It's all you get out of the box. But if you don't get something out of the box, it's very easy to extend. And you can also extend any of these components in any language you want, and then all in a cloud agnostic format. So it means you can swap clouds very easily. So I'll give a demo shortly, but I wanted to just kind of run through, what features have we been doing recently or since the last community meetup, which was about a year ago. So just for fun, I added the commit history from our GitHub. This is all public information. So we have a full dedicated team just doing development on ThinEdge. So you can inspect our history and going, how active is the project? We have proof. So as you can see, this is even showing past a bit over a year under here that, we've been active since 2021. So some of these new features, probably going into kind of most interesting. So the generic features, which aren't cloud specific. So we have the integration with hardware security modules. We'll have a dedicated session on that because it gets a little bit complex if you're not already familiar with hardware security modules. We have support HTTP, HTTPS proxy servers. So a lot of if you have a device in a factory floor or something, sometimes the IT policies then dictate that you can't connect directly to the internet. You need to go through a proxy service. And so that was just added in the 1.5 release. So it makes it easier to you can use ThinEdge in more network configurations now. We've extended the API interface to actually do anything like to register devices locally in the network. If you want to register new child devices, we also have, so you can do this by MQTT already, or now via HTTP, and also get information about the device using HTTP. So this makes it great for using, creating your own kind of user interfaces. If you needed to poll the system going, what child devices exist in the network, then you can actually then use the convenient HTTP interface. And we'll also be extending that over time. So if there's new use cases, we'll definitely be adding new features there. We've done a lot of CLI improvements. So tab completion is kind of one of my favorites, to doing a kind of convenience function for HTTP commands, config filtering and all this stuff, but I'll show some of those live in the demo. You can control kind of fragments with inventory JSON. You can now connect to multiple clouds of the same type. So when we also say that we support multiple clouds, that also means multiple clouds at the same time. So you can kind of have dual connections to different clouds, but also you can connect, for instance, to Cumulocity, 2 different independent instances, and you can connect them at the same time. So if you have a customer instance, but you also want a kind of maintenance instance, you can have both Cumulocity connections, and you can kind of do your maintenance on the devices if you want to kind of help the customer with software updates or keeping the device up to date, then you can kind of configure it. So it's very flexible also with kind of business models that you want to kind of deploy your IoT solutions in. Then one of the core kind of fundamentals to the TEDGE agent is that we're using a workflow model for basically all of the execution of operations or commands. So this might not mean anything on its own, but just as long as you kind of remember the word workflows, we have a great documentation page on it, but basically it's a very, very flexible model that you basically get a state machine out of the box, and it's configurable to whatever your business logic is. So this means we've already seen customers do a manual confirmation before you install software to fulfill some kind of regulations. So you can kind of extend it to do whatever you want to meet whatever kind of business logic. So that's very powerful, or I recommend, but it's probably a little bit for more advanced users. And also with the workflow kind of context, doing any of the custom operation handlers, that's all kind of built into the workflow model. So you can trigger from the cloud, say if I want to run a command, that will under the hood then be translated to a local operation, which is then executed by a workflow. So it just means it a little bit more robust in the execution. So if the device randomly reboots or something, it should continue off where it left off. So with the Cumulocity specific integration, we have probably a headline feature, which I know a lot of people are really interested in, is the support for the certificate authority feature for Cumulocity, which is still in a preview feature, but it's a public preview. So it should be available on all, like, I think EU latest tenants or public instances. So you can take advantage of that to basically no more self-signed certificates, really use a CA issued certificate. But from the integration of like availability monitoring to going, is my device still online? The nice integration with Cumulocity there, to device profiles, updating operations by IDs, remote access, and all these kinds of things are all kind of supported. So you should have a first-class integration with any kind of Cumulocity. And that means if you're if you're a device partner and looking to get a device onboarded and certified with Cumulocity, all that means is install ThinEdge, and then you will get certified, because ThinEdge supports all of the device management features out of the box. So it should be a very seamless process to kind of get the, supported by Cumulocity or Cumulocity stamp on your devices. So you can also potentially reach them more customers. And for maybe a feature targeted at existing customers, maybe with existing agents. So we have added support for basic auth, which is basically so using username password kind of for the MQT connection to Cumulocity. So in the past, we have only supported certificate-based. That is still our very strong recommendation. And together with the certificate authority feature, it should be a no-brainer. So it's only in limited situations that for whatever reason, if that is not available for you to use, or if you have existing agents which use that, then you can also install ThinEdge and then actually kind of do a piece-by-piece translation or upgrade of your kind of local agent on your device and still get all of the device management benefits from ThinEdge being installed on your device. So that gets on to a little bit more, using the Cumulocity local proxy feature and all that kind of stuff. But so if you are interested in how do I update my old agents to then take advantage of ThinEdge, by all means, reach out to us on Discord or in the GitHub issues. So that's enough for the features. So I'm assuming not everyone will remember all the features. That is totally fine. That's what our changelog is for. But I just wanted to kind of show this is very, very active development, and we're doing this all the time and also improving all the time. So now we have the boring stuff out of the way. Let's have a look at actual things in the real world. So the best way to kind of use ThinEdge to, especially if you're a new user or just going, what are these Cumulocity features you're talking about? What is remote access? We have a demo container kind of setup, which makes it very easy to spin up these things. So that's what I'm going to use here. So I have a demo. I don't want to start up Edge community event 9. And it's pulling in the container, starting it. And by default, because we want to encourage kind of use of the certificate authority feature, it's even using the certificate authority to register the device, bootstrapping it for me. I haven't needed to do anything, automatically connects to Cumulocity for me. So this is really good for demonstrating or just getting familiar with it. So within this construct, you can imagine it's kind of like a virtualized device. So under the hood, it's running Docker, but it's meant to represent a real device. So it has everything in the kitchen sink in it. So it has like systemd and all these things. But obviously, all of those things can be configured. But it's good just to kind of show all of the spread of the features that are supported by ThinEdge. So here we have the nice, device availability monitoring that, yes, I'm online, cool. And I can see some media information about the device. I can also extend it. So using, standard Cumulocity features here. See if I wanted to, let's see the agent and maybe OS version. So there's a few different things. Save. So I can see it's running ThinEdge 1.5.1 and what operating system. So it's a Debian Bookworm. Cool. So you can extend that to whatever you would like. That's just standard Cumulocity features. All the data is already being pushed by ThinEdge, or from either the core ThinEdge or the plugins which are installed. But everything should be there and consumable. So you can say what your device is and what is it doing. So you can see that basically this tabs is very, very long because it has a lot of features. So whether we have configuration management, so if you wanted to kind of get configuration from the device and then set it, all of that's there. So if I wanted to add a new kind of entry, then I can do that and set a new default or like a new configuration to the device, then have new entries here. So it's very easy to kind of configure third-party applications. You can just also configure it remotely from the cloud, or you can also edit your packages so it adds the entries in there automatically. We get a overview of also what kind of services are running on the device. So currently we're only showing ThinEdge services, but you're free to kind of publish any service kind of statuses that you want on these devices. So that's part of like the ThinEdge kind of MQTT kind of API available. You can also register anything. So if you have third-party applications that you also want to monitor in the cloud, that you can also register them very easily by just publishing one MQTT message. So you can see that everything's healthy. So the Tedge agent is running, it's a good sign. But maybe I want to kind of see, well, what version, what exactly APT package is running on the device. So I can go to software and just go Tedge agent. And I can see actually the Tedge agent is a APT package because I'm running on a Debian-based system. But if you're running a different kind of operating system, so Alpine, there's also an APK kind of plugin. So you can also extend this to whatever you want, but I can see instantly, okay, yes, confirmed, I've got 1.5. Maybe if I want to check out what other packages are installed on the device, it's very easy to kind of do all these checks. Or you can see that there's a whole host of packages. You can filter this list to pick out what bits are interesting for you. It's kind of up to you. It's all just configuration in the end. So log management, so we can request logs and everything like that. Maybe less interesting to show now. But I wanted to show part of the device, the certificate authority integration. So you might notice if you're kind of clued in on how CommonsLC looks, we actually have a new tab here. So if I click on here, this is a part of the certificate authority feature. So this shows me what certificate is currently issued to the device. So I have the serial number here and also the expiration date. So this means I can say, I can check that, yes, my device is fine. It isn't expiring anytime soon. So I can be safe. It won't be disconnected because of, its certificate is expiring. So out of the box, this certificate will also renew by default. But I can also trigger a manual renewal of the certificates by simply issuing commands, but I would really recommend just there's a systemd service which does this, checks every hour, and then checks, will I expire within a configured days? And if that threshold is met, it will then renew that automatically. And you might notice here that it's gotten the new certificate, but it's not yet using the new certificate. So I can also just do a Tedge cert. Oops, sorry, Tedge reconnect. And I can also then reconnect to, and it's obviously failed because I've killed it. So you can configure this, but if you go to like remote access, you can also see that it's kind of renewed itself. So you can then do so it should be a very hands-off kind of process. Then everything's kind of, you only need to go if, maybe at the beginning and that the threshold is, under 30 days, and then you can then react to the device and then maybe see what was going on for that. So if we just go search, show. Here I can see that so it actually is using a new certificate, and so everything's happy and I don't need to do anything. So this also shows the remote access feature, which also is a powerful feature that you get out of the box to access devices. So you can do SSH, VNC if you have like a VNC and a UI actually on the device. But it's very powerful because you can also, for the power users, also do advanced troubleshooting there and check what's kind of going on and then solve that, and then maybe do the deployment fleet-wide using either packages or using a remote shell command. So all of this stuff you get out of the box. So I would really encourage, if you're not a ThinEdge user, to have a look and use that, because it makes it very easy to kind of integrate your devices. And just as a quick sneak peek to what we're kind of working on now. So what's next for us? So we still have, a big team working on this every day. So we're looking into the configurable mapper kind of use case, or like a context on the edge, to basically saying, well, maybe let's be a little bit more flexible about how the mapping rules are done to allow users to find their own kind of filters and maps to then control the data format as you want. We want to support connecting to the new Cumulocity MQTT service. So this is the free form kind of MQTT broker, which is, I believe, also in public preview at the moment. So that will also be a very powerful feature. So we want to support people being able to utilize that. And also some small kind of improvements is we want to improve kind of like the log interface. So we can support command-based kind of log collection, including like journal D or container logs, which is more like a command producing log output rather than a file itself, which we currently only support files. So hopefully all of these features are enough to kind of get you to explore ThinEdge. And with the demo container, it makes it very, very easy to kind of get up and going and then explore the powerful features of both ThinEdge and Cumulocity. Cool. So that concludes my section. So I'll hand over to Stefan.